Welcome to the Christine Balfa podcast. In this season, titled Coming Home, Christine talks with George Marks, a visual artist and cultural ambassador from Arnaville, Louisiana.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. This is Christine Balfa, and this is the Christine Balfa podcast. So happy today to have a friend of mine and an inspirational person with us here today, Mr. George Marks from Arnaville. How you doing, George?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So many people that I'm around, and I think, man, I'd love to just sit and visit and get to know this person better, you know, and you came up for sure in my...
Don't dig too deep.
Say only what you want. But one of the things that part of this series is about people who grew up around this area and then moved away for a while and then chose to come back home. And I'm just curious about, you know, that, and then started making different things happen. Making shit happen is what I say, you know. So you, for sure, are one of those people. But I'd like to know a little bit more about your growing up in Arnaville. I see that you're a close-knit family. What was it like growing up in Arnaville for you?
So I grew up on, Bayou Fusilier Road. The last of six. And I like to say that mom and dad had three litters. They had the first, which, there were three born back to back, like two boys and a girl. And then there was the second litter, which was my brother, Tinunu, and Rita. And then it was about 5 years, and it was me. So I kind of have firstborn tendencies, lastborn tendencies, and only child tendencies. So there's a little combination there.
Interesting.
But, yeah. The older kids with mom and dad, they were younger, so they got to do a lot of stuff. They would go camping, they would go fishing, they would do all of those things.
Because your parents were still young when they had them. Active.
So busheries, all of that. As they got older, and of course, I grew up. We didn't do those things as much. So, I kind of felt cheated a little bit.
Because they were older. How old was your mom when she had you?
Oh God, mom was in her early 40s.
Oh, wow.
So it was really hard because, vacation it was hanging out. My dad was he was a tugboat captain, but he would do a lot of international trips. So he'd leave for a month or two at a time. Wow. So when he'd come home, I was like, "Oh, Dad, let's go to Disney World. Let's go to," and he's like, "Oh, no. I've been traveling. I'm home. We're staying home." And but what he did do was he brought back like old, like vinyl records and VHS tapes and all these really cool artifacts from different countries. Wow. And so I got to live vicariously through all of those things. And being an artist, even now that I know in retrospect that that's kind of what I was looking at all of those things and creating these fantastical worlds with all of those. And so, so Arnaville I loved it. It was bustling at the time, but it was hard for me because I knew that there was a world out there.
Because you kept seeing what your dad was bringing.
Yeah.
So that you're like, wait, I want to see more of that. So, but before I want to dig into that for sure. But I'm not familiar. What is a tugboat captain? Like, what is that type of job?
So, basically, they have huge barges that have to get pushed or pulled by a series of tugboats. And a lot of times, if it's a riverboat captain, you'll see smaller boats kind of pushing these huge barges. And so a lot of the guys that worked offshore around this area, most of them were riverboat tugboat captains. But Dad, he I forget what it's called, but he he was licensed to do it on internationally. So,
Wow.
yeah. So, I mean, he was in Africa and Jamaica. I mean, all these different places that.
So he would cross the Atlantic Ocean, the Pacific Ocean, the Indian,
Yeah. And then when he'd come back, he'd say, yeah, the waves would, they come up, they get so big, they come over the boat, so it was, the stories were really, they were awesome stories to hear about it. And what I really liked, and this is all in retrospect, but, I can remember Mom and Dad, when it came time to, like, let's say cut the grass. Well, of course we didn't want to cut the grass. And, but he said, okay, let's design your dream house. And then we all would pick up rakes and we would take all the clippings and then we'd create floor plans in the front yard with all the clippings. And then we'd negotiate where the windows would go and where the doors would go. And then Mom and Dad would talk about like, well, this is the north side, so you really don't want to put that too many windows on that side. So,
wow.
So it was this experiential learning.
That sounds amazing. I don't know of any parents that did that with their kids. That's so cool.
I don't know if they knew they were doing it.
Right.
But that's just kind of how I grew up. You're
very fortunate too. They used what kids naturally have is their low imaginations, and they built on that, and they got you to do the yard work
and to negotiate. That's the big part. So it's the yard work part, but it's also like how to compromise with people, because with compromise, everyone has to give up a little bit of something, and so that, I think, was the foundation for what I'm doing now.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah.
You didn't probably realize that at the time.
Did not realize that.
But when did you realize that that's whenever you started developing the skills that you're using now?
So I was still at, let's see, had I graduated from LSU, and it was a friend of mine, and I talked about, my dad going on all these trips and doing this, that, and the other. And she said, you realize that? And when she said it, it was just like, duh. I mean, that's exactly what happened.
So you couldn't see it for yourself, but once your friend pointed it out, then you could see that bigger picture.
And then I became a lot more cognizant. Once I became cognizant of it, I started paying a lot more attention, as to like why I would do certain things or why I was attracted to certain things. And it was, it was always, even in my artwork, the lines that I use, I didn't realize until later that the lines are actually the power lines that cut across the rural landscapes.
I saw that when I looked at your work. I mean,
yeah, I didn't know that until.
So that wasn't on purpose. That's not on purpose that you did
that. Was all, no. And it wasn't until looking back that I realized where all this, so, all these like symbols in my work, it all ties back to where I grew up. And it was being a kid, being bored in the country, and then because we weren't going on vacation, and creating these fantastical worlds, like turning the clouds into different things and the power lines into architecture and the landscape and I, again, somehow I forgot about all of that until it was actually much later. It was actually right before moving back home. That was, let's see, Katrina was in 2010? No.
I don't know when Katrina was, but we can make sure we find out. But what I really I'd like to come back to that too. Yeah. But I want to talk about whenever you were younger and when you realized that you wanted to be a visual artist. Did you have artists around you? Like, what was it that inspired you to make you realize that that was something you wanted to pursue?
It wasn't something I wanted to pursue, actually. I knew that I liked to tear things apart, right? So tear
them apart to see how they work, or tear them apart for
no, to put them back together. So like I would rip things up and then
like what, for example?
Photographs, magazines. I mean, whatever I could find.
So you just tear it and
Tear it up, and then I would. One of the funny stories is that I did you would call it an installation now, but it was actually, I did a collage on the side of the house. I glued all the little pieces onto the side of my mom and dad's house, and I was so proud of it. And I said, "Mom, come see." And then, she's like, "Oh," like, and it was not something that, they would, it wasn't like a pretty butterfly or anything. And
so what was it that you?
it was a portrait of my mom, but it did not look like my mom. I mean, it was
Wow.
yeah.
And how old were you when you did that?
I was probably, let's see, I was probably maybe 7.
Wow. So
Yeah, I was about
really
7.
young.
Yeah. Yeah, really, really young.
So what made you have that idea to do that?
I don't know. It was just this, I don't know. It was just a need just to kind of recreate something, and if you think about it, I'm kind of doing that now too, right? I like to say I kick over an ant mound and then everyone around me builds it up better, and that's kind of what happens. But I will, thinking about all of that, and I have to come up with a better word than manipulate. But I like to manipulate situations to make them better. So
is it something that when you see something that is not working, or do you think it's working pretty good, but it could work better? Or what makes you want to manipulate something? What attracts you to something
that's off? I'll tell you, I was visiting a friend in Baton Rouge, and they moved in their topiary from the front porch. And I'm sitting there, and I just kept seeing 2 little twigs poking out. Everything else was so pretty. And so before leaving, I said, "Do you have a pair of scissors?" And she's like, "Yeah, why?" So I took the scissors and I went and I clipped it. She's like, "Was it driving you nuts?" I'm like, "It was making me crazy. I was having a hard time focusing on the conversation because I kept seeing those 2 little, and if you think about it, the same thing with people. Like, I love like people's faces, but I like it when, they might have like one crooked tooth. Or there's got to be something that needs, because we all got something. I got a lot, but we all got something that needs to be fixed.
Yeah.
We all do.
No, everybody. I think it's human nature when we look in the mirror. Most people see all the things that need to be fixed. You don't see the good stuff, But so. Do you think that wanting to cut those 2 little limbs? I would never think of you like having tendencies towards an OCD kind of thing, or is it?
Oh my God, I do have some of that.
You do?
Oh yeah. We're not going to delve into that too much, but it's funny because like I can't remember a birthday, but I'll obsess over inventory numbers. Like I can remember inventory, but I can't remember someone's birthday.
Huh.
And it's funny how our minds like.
We should have had Dr. Jude here. You know Jude Terrio?
He's the coolest guy.
Yeah. To see he was the earlier one we did today, and we talked about like the brain. Like, I wonder what it is about our brains that he would want you to focus on that.
On that one thing. As good as the conversations were, as we're talking about, their son, going to Juilliard and then leaving because he has a career without it, kind of thing. Like good stuff. And yeah, 2 little. And when you said limbs, they weren't even limbs. These were like 2 little tiny little twigs, maybe with 4 or 5 little leaves on them that had to be removed. Mm-hmm. It's just
something and you think that that's connected to the bigger picture of you wanting.
Yeah. I think that is just, whenever I look at it, I always like try to look at, the beauty of something first, of course. And for me, beauty is more of an inner thing, right? And, and if there's something a little off that could make it better, then that's the thing I focus on. Like a lot of times people will say like, oh, this painting by so-and-so. And I kind of feel like, and like, who do you think you are wanting to fix somebody else's painting? But like masters, I'll look at something, I'm like, oh man, I would have, like, who do you think you are?
But that's just your brain,
It's
like
how
how
my
to
brain-
make something better. Like even though it's great, it's a master that created it.
Yeah. It's always like I gotta, I always want to flip it somehow, and
So could be a very positive thing because you've done something. But is that sometimes a burden for you at times too? You think maybe
it can be a burden because then and my mind never shuts off. So it's like it's a constant, it's constantly trying to reconfigure or reposition or reorient or, I mean, how many times have you been to News and it's different?
Oh, well, it's in different places a lot from the first time.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's like
it's always there's always so many cool things going on.
And the other thing is when I go to sleep at night, I love sleeping on the sofa. I'm not a bed kind of guy. Never have been. Even as a kid, I was like a nomad in my own house, like with mom and dad. Like so, I would just go from room to room or sofa to sofa. Like I never really had a room.
Huh.
And to this day, I really don't have a room. I sleep on the sofa, and I'll go to sleep on one end one night. I'll sleep on another. It's a sectional, so I'll sleep on the other side the other night. So that way, every morning I wake up, I have a different perspective. So it kind of keeps it.
So that's why you think
Because I'm
you've
really a
chosen-
nomad. I mean, I have to keep things moving because there's no way I'd stay. I got to, things have to be in a constant state of flux. And that can be a lot for
It's a
people.
challenge. Yeah,
It's a challenge.
I bet that is a challenging, beautiful, but also like a challenging way to sustain. A challenging thing to sustain, I would think.
Well, for me, but also people around me. Because most people like, not just consistency, but they want their lives to be formulated. And then I come from, my thought is once things become too formulated, then creativity ceases to exist.
Sure.
In
that
my
makes
opinion,
sense.
but I
That
don't
makes
know
sense. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you always had this thing about wanting to take something and make it better or fix it or deconstruct to reconstruct. And how do you see as that being what led you into becoming a visual artist? Like how, give us a picture about how that happened.
So, growing up, of course, being an artist was not something that, I'm not saying that my mom and dad discouraged it, but they didn't necessarily encourage it. And so,
was it more a reason to be more practical?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It was like, look, we both came back from, we grew up really poor and we want you to do better than we did. And a lot of times it's always connected to how much money you make.
Sure.
So for a long time, that was a drive. Like I was like, I got to make, I'm going to make this amount by the time I'm this age. I'm going to do this.
To prove that wrong.
To prove that, yeah.
That you can.
And it was actually a professor at LSU, Walter Rukowski, who, it was funny because he called me by my first and last name all the time. He never could get it right all through college. So George, Mark, George. He's like, who has two first names? I mean, who is that? And so he would use it all the time. It was a little irritating, but he's like, what are you studying? And I'm like, well, business. And he's just like, oh, no, there needs to be art. You need to just focus on art, and this is what you need to do.
You went to LSU for your bachelor's degree. You studied, and so you were a business major.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. That
so
was
this is surprising.
Yeah. And it was.
So, but you had already started doing art. When did you do art in school?
I
How did you even?
Yeah, I did art in school. But again, I never thought of it as a means to an end. Like I never thought of it as a career.
You never thought it, so you just thought this is something I'm gonna do for fun as a hobby all my life, and it's just gonna be a part of my life.
Yeah.
But
But
never
I had
as
this
your
professor
career.
that said, "Yeah, no, you need to."
This was the irritating one that kept calling you Mark,
Correct.
George Marks.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what was really beautiful about that, though, was there were about 5 of us in as undergrads, and we all kind of connected, and we're all still friends today. And we approached the dean of the school, Michael Crespo, and said, "Hey, look, what if we create our own master's program?" Like,
And were y'all all in business or were y'all all in art?
all in art.
Okay. Because he
But
convinced you to.
But I went in like as the business, like, and I was just like, what if we do this? Because then, just kind of sold it. And, so the business thing actually helped me package an idea that then presented to the dean. And then he was just like, sure. So we got to, I don't want to say test out of certain classes, but we were able to focus on almost like creating a thesis. And then we had different professors who we weren't even taking. They would all come in and give us critiques, and it was
So
wonderful.
tell us about what was your package like? Like, what did you present?
It was just the idea of going in and say, making the argument, like, this is why this would make sense for these students. Like, we've all connected, we've all bonded. This doesn't happen, typically on a university campus, and I knew that it really doesn't happen, and just got him to agree. It was
agree to
allow us to create our own program at LSU.
And so, what was the program?
And it was basically us testing out of a bunch of classes, and we got to hang out in Foster Hall and just make art all the time. And then we had professors who would come in and give critiques. It was wonderful.
Wow. So to grow as an artist, you really focus on your art, and the professors would come in.
Yeah, and it wasn't just the ones we were taking. We had a class where it was like, they would all just show up at the last classroom in Foster Hall, and then we'd break in at night at LSU and to go and make art. And
so, what years were these? What era was this?
This was I graduated in '93, so it was 90.
You graduated high school in '93.
Oh, no, college.
College in '93.
Oh, God, I'm old. I was born in '69. So.
No, you're not. Oh, you're younger than me.
Oh, yeah, all right.
I was born in '68, so we're similar age.
Okay.
So, so you graduated from college. So that was that era. So the late '80s, early '90s.
Mm-hmm. Early '90s for Baton Rouge, and I was there for about 13 years. Yeah, nice. and it just blows my mind that I've been back in Orneville for longer than I lived in Baton Rouge, because that time period feels like an eternity.
Was it because it was so formative in who you are, maybe? Or what do you...
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
Because even though it's close by, it's very different than Orneville.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
It's... I'm not going to dog... I like Baton Rouge. But it's definitely a different place. It's so transient, like with the university, and then, the political piece, it always felt like that was like always on our radar in regards to what was bubbling up. So it kind of made me a lot more, I think, aware
of
politics, because it was a constant reminder.
Right.
And that actually helped me with what I'm doing now, because, it's like, learning how to read a room, learning, and just because I want to say something doesn't mean I should say it at that moment. I should be, or create something, I need to be more, it's not about being careful, more strategic.
Right. You're still being authentic to who you are, but you're going to be more strategic. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I've probably do that myself, without being self-aware, aware of that.
But I think Baton Rouge helped with that a lot.
And you were there for how long, you said?
Let's see, I guess it was about 15 years.
Yeah.
13 to 15 years.
And when did you come back to Orneville?
So right before Katrina, my dad got sick. And I had decided, before he got sick, I decided I was going to go to New York. I was going to sell all my stuff. I had a little money in the bank. I had, money, I knew I had accounts receivable, I had stuff coming in, that I had sold, and thought, okay, I can go to New York and I won't completely starve.
I have a little cushion.
I have a little cushion. I mean, I'll be okay. And then my dad got sick, so I came home for a little bit, and then went to the hospital. And then it was about he was in the hospital for about 6 weeks. We never left the hospital. He never left the hospital. And then at that moment, it was during that period that I fully realized that because I had a lot of time to think and reflect, a lot of what the symbols that I have in my work, I could connect back to
your childhood,
to my childhood, and also to the environment that I grew up in. And the lines in my work, I remember professors asking, like, what are those lines? Why are you doing that? And I was like, well, I just feel compelled to do them. And he's like, well, you got to know why. And I'm like, well, why? Why you got to know why? Well, it felt actually really nice finally understanding why, and then learning to really incorporate that and be, and again, more strategic about how I use them. But it was during that time period that I really understood that my art was about where I grew up. It was about the culture of the place, or the heritage of the place, and the memories attached to it, and all of that. And it began to really kind of dictate a lot of the directions I was going in with painting. Whereas before, I mean, I did quite well, but it was painting a lot. It was just producing. You
were very prolific, so to be able to make a lot, you had to produce a lot of work.
But then moving back, I was able to be a lot more intentional about when I worked, how much I produced, and and I kind of fell in love with it again, because for a while it kind of got, and I guess maybe for a musician it might be the same thing.
Your love becomes your job, and then it can flip real quick if you don't self-aware and more strategic. And
because what happens when I mean, I began to feel almost like I was can I say prostitute?
Yeah,
I felt like I was prostituting myself to a certain degree. I wasn't, but just the idea of producing just because there was money connected to it didn't feel right.
Right.
It cheapened it.
Yeah. I had a similar thing. It wasn't like that, but I remember when we were on the road all the time and doing these concerts where we were presenting the music, but like telling a story of the culture and how so grounded in culture. And I'm thinking, I am not living what I'm talking about. I'm an aspect of it. I'm playing the music, but our culture is so connected to the people here, the food we eat, the landscape. That is like, and then I started feeling like, ooh,
like almost
this
like
is imposter. This imposter syndrome. Like, I'm talking about all this, but I'm just living this thin layer that's at the top of what it really means to me. And so it's not the same, but it's similar kind of feeling like, whoa, I'm not. Yeah, and I still love traveling and playing music and sharing our culture, but I feel much more grounded now that I'm here at home more often. Like, I'm home more often and playing music in its context.
In this context, yeah.
Although I still love traveling with both Balfa Toujours and Bonsoir Catin, but doing just that all the time, it started to kill my soul.
Yeah. So like, when does it become, when it becomes a gig,
Yeah,
you know?
it's really true.
Yeah.
So, how did you, when you felt that happening, or whenever you still, I mean, it still can happen because you can make a lot of money. And when does it become about the money and not about what you're doing? But then you do need to make money to,
The other difficult part to that is the expectations that come with being an artist, like that people have of you being an artist, that you're supposed to reach these certain benchmarks in your career, to be considered, successful, to be a real artist. And for me, what I did, because my paintings are actually provide me with a living income, an income. The social sculpture part, which is the work that I do, like in Orneville, and like community development work, and trying to kind of assemble different groups of people so they're in the space at the same time. In my mind, that's sculpture. So, so that's what kind of feeds my soul, and it's also research and development for me, because a lot of those interactions sometimes become, inspiration for new work.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Because I remember one time Mom talking about my, Guidry's, the Holy Trinity, Guidry's Fresh Cut. Well, his grandfather would kind of buy out, like a green onion field, and then come drop all the green onions off on George Colley Road in Cecilia. And then my mom and all the kids and all the neighbors would sit in a big circle, and they would clean the green onions, and they would package them, like bundle them, and then they'd come pick it up and bring it to stores. And so the whole time they were doing that, they would make a big pot of something, and they would all eat together, and they would clean onions together, and they would bundle the onions together, and they would speak French, and they would tell stories. And I'm like, golly, that's what we do now. I mean, that's community right there.
Definitely.
And so, so all of those, and actually I did a whole series based on that, with green onions and them sitting in a circle, and had an opening in New Orleans, and then actually had a French table in the round, like within the gallery, because then that became part of, in my opinion, it became part of the exhibit. It was part of the presentation of the whole thing.
So let's, maybe for people that are not familiar with New News, can you tell us how you got the idea to start this amazing place, which I think I first went with my friend Kristen Kardecki.
Oh my God, I haven't heard that name in so long. Yeah.
I miss her so much, but it was a powerhouse, and we were so lucky to have her in this area when we had her. She and I were hanging out, and she said, "You have to come. Have you been to New News yet?" I was like, "No, but I've been hearing about it." You had just kind of got that going. It was next to Myron's.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I remember so well when walking in and meeting you and being like, "Whoa, this is something different," and I just felt this is whatever this guy has. This is something special. And then to see. I guess maybe in the last few years, I've just been more paying attention to what y'all doing over there. Became a member and getting the newsletter. But I can't believe the variety of things that y'all do there. Everything is very varied, but it's also interesting. And everything on there is like, oh, I'd like to do that. I mean, it's so interesting. So how did you even start that? Like, give us the grassroots version of that.
So this is back to high school. I was, I think, a junior in high school, and there was an old building in town that was Lagrange's department store. Do you remember Lagrange's?
I've heard the name, but
okay.
That was before my time in this area.
They closed, and I thought, this would be the coolest like market of the culture piece hadn't really solidified yet. But the idea of creating a market space of some kind that showcased the best of what we have to offer.
So you had that idea in high school.
That was in high school.
That's impressive.
Okay. So then I met with, he was a Durio. I can't remember his first name, but he had an insurance agency. And I went to meet with him because I was going to look for funders. And so I walked in. And so can you imagine a 16-year-old guy walking in with
That's awesome.
a business plan and drawings and sketches and all that. And I said, so I told him the idea. And he said, this is a great idea, but you know what your problem is? He said, your problem is you look too young and you probably look young all your life and people are going to tell you no a lot.
That's not too encouraging.
And I was like, dang.
That's so hard hit.
I know.
So how did you come back from that? That didn't stop you, obviously.
Well, it didn't, but the building got sold and I think Russell's has expanded and they're there now. But, and I'm glad that happened because, I left for a little bit and I went, lived life and came back probably armed with more information and that I could use. But the idea was to create a space that would, again, showcase the best of what we had to offer, but not limited to just visual art, so art, music, food, language, the whole of it. And that, who better to tell that and share that than the people that actually produce it and make it, So what better person to start an education program than an educator, or what better person to create a music program than a musician. And that's kind of how we approached it. That the idea of not owning it, but trying to inspire people to kind of like what you're doing right here, like inspire people to do what they're passionate about. And then we would just provide a platform for that or a stage or whatever, a space.
Yeah.
And so the idea of the market becoming a sum of its parts, like Nunu is the sum of its parts. So Nunu's 5 years from now may look different depending on, who has joined the collective. So
I remember a big part when we used to go back then, your mom was always in there cooking. And always, your mom was a big part. I found that to be so beautiful that you and your mom were in this together.
And she's still a big part of it.
She
And
is,
even though she's not, because she's kind of like the mole or the spy in the room. Like she helps to read the room. Okay. So like
she has that gift. You got that gift from her.
So
probably.
if things are going on, mom say, okay, so the person that they look like they were confused. You need to go back and you need to go talk to so and so. Or I don't know about that person. You may need to be a little careful with that one. Just kind of watch your back. Yeah, attention. Watch your back. Don't and she's really good at that and always has been. And I think I do get some of that from her of being able to kind of read a space. But she's going to be back there again. I mean, I know she's going to be, like she's didn't
How
start
old
the
is your
pots.
mom
She's
now?
88 now.
Wow.
Yeah. She might not be back in the kitchen stirring the pot, but she will be in the kitchen overseeing how they're
Making
stirring
sure they're
the
stirring
pot.
it right.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that she's still involved. And so I know that there's things happening at New News. Like I said, what are like, just to give people, if you haven't checked out get on the newsletter and get on their email list to find out what's going on. But just give us an idea of like, for the last like several months, what are the things that are on the calendar there?
Someone described New News as a repository of conversation, which I think is pretty sweet. And And so a lot of what we do focuses on those kind of round table or round the room kind of conversations. And we've had the Tapestry series, which is funded by the Louisiana Endowment for Humanities, and it looks at the diversity of culture in our area beyond French. Like, who are the other, what are the other, immigrant populations that have contributed to the culture that we have?
Kay, we had Kay on the podcast on our last recording session, and she mentioned that her interest. She talked about, and it's true. We have such a strong, our culture is so strong, but like what you're talking about, there's so many, but the Laotian community in New Iberia, all the fishing with the Henderson,
Right.
for, the Vietnamese.
We forget that, the Asian population commercialized fishing in Louisiana. They did that, and so, when you look at gumbo, and you start kind of dissecting what goes into that, smoked sausage. I mean, that's a German contribution. When you start looking at all the different, immigrant populations that have made up our cuisine, here, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it really is.
And music.
Definitely.
Think about it, like the accordion.
The accordion is German, yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's a German, yeah. And I think that is something about our area, is that we were so isolated, and that's part of why we preserve that. But we were also very adaptable, and adapt to what's going on. And that's the accordion. No, we can take that. That could work in our music, or whatever, that gumbo with that spice or that ingredient. And so it becomes of who we are. But to recognize where those things come from and the diversity of that is really interesting. And
then also if like who makes a gumbo the same? And you start looking, for, it's like us, I was in St. Joe, Louisiana, but if you haven't been there, it's really cool to check out what's happening there. But I was sitting, and it's in north Louisiana. Anyway, so I was sitting there, and I was having it was a tamale. It was a tamale wrapped in an omelet. Y'all. I mean, I never thought of putting that together, but talk about good.
It's good.
So, but I'm sitting there, and it's, I'm like, oh, how did the tamale become such an important piece in St. Joe, Louisiana? And they're all looking around like, I don't know, maybe because of, like migrant labor coming through and working. And of course that shifted over the years once it went to, equipment, heavy machinery and things like that. And, but it's just that, I don't know. I can't help but look at those little nuances, like when you're eating something or drinking something, like what is it that kind of contributed to this ending up on the table? And a big part of New News does that. Like, we always want to break bread with people. I mean, even the drawing sessions that you go to, look at what Kay's doing is like, there's food set out. There's
always
food and wine
coffee,
and coffee. And it's all about, creating these social, almost like a social component or setting that, people where they can connect and they can share and they can talk and they can, learn about each other. And, it's to me, it's the best way to learn. It's experiential learning.
Yes.
And that's the best,
Well, for me, like, life drawing, it's, as a growing artist, that is like the thing that, oh my gosh, if you can do that, then you're a real artist, right? So it's so intimidating. But when I go there on Tuesday nights for that, it is so down to earth and just like, what? I'm here to practice. Everybody's here to practice.
No judgment.
No judgment. We might look at, but it's such a friendly and welcoming and non-judgmental energy at that place that I just really love being there.
And it continues to evolve,
Right.
As new people become, members, and as they move to town, or maybe they've decided to kind of do what you're doing, like with this podcast, like, hey, I have this idea. Just about every idea that we have at New News is someone else's idea. The quilting circle is Mr. Larry and Miss Loretta. That was them. They came up with that.
So I've never been to the quilting circle, but I remember I used to have an idea for people who would, they have their jam sessions everywhere.
Yeah.
It's like, why not have a quilt? Like I grew up, and my aunt, she was a quilter. This was my mom, my Aunt Helen. She was a quilter, and in their living room, she had a quilt that she'd lifted up.
Yeah.
And so it didn't look bad. It was beautiful. Yeah. And then in the evening, when they wanted to just visit, and everybody would sit around the quilting, and we'd visit and learn how to quilt.
Yeah.
And so I thought, what a wonderful thing you could add at a jam session is have a quilting thing. You could pick it up, so I'm so glad that y'all have that quilting circle. I should go. I mean, if I didn't have to have a job, I'd be at New News all the time because y'all have so many interesting things.
Yeah, and but again, it's like it's meant to transform. It's a transformative space. So when it needs to be a space for the quilters, then it becomes that. And if it needs to be a classroom, it becomes that. When it needs to be a music venue, it becomes that. And so the whole kind of idea was that we get I'll be honest with you, we get criticism sometimes because we're not focusing on like three things. And and my argument is that the sweet spot to all of this is the intersection of many different things.
I agree. Yeah.
And that's where the sweet spot is.
Because life is not three things.
It's not three things.
Life is all kind of stuff. So like y'all have a quilter circle. I know y'all have visual art stuff.
So we have every second Friday. We have every other month on the second Friday, we have a new opening, like exhibition opening reception. And what we try to do is we try to do it on the second Friday to basically piggyback off of second Saturday in Lafayette.
For the art walk there.
Mm-hmm. Because our idea is that, everybody's so concerned about the pie, getting a piece of the pie, right? And I'm like, just make a bigger damn pie.
Right. There's plenty of pie for everybody. We just make a bigger pie.
Make a bigger pie, if somebody drives up in the front yard, and you got some gravy on the stove, you add another cup of rice. You know what I mean? It's resilience. It's learning to cope with what you have and make do.
Yes.
And I forgot where I was going with that.
Well, it's okay to have another art walk on the Friday or the art, just like piggybacking, working together with the extended community.
And then what we can say is Acadiana then becomes, for visual art, the second weekend becomes, because we can never do what the ACA does, right? We want to support what the ACA does,
work together.
Work together, yeah. Where the idea is that that whole weekend becomes about, visual art. It becomes about art.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Yeah. And then it'd be great if, things were happening in Breaux Bridge and Cecilia and Grand Coteau and
that
Sunset.
Whole weekend could be.
That whole weekend could just be jam-packed, with people coming in at the same time to experience that. Because we have it.
Yeah, it's true.
I just don't think we all align sometimes.
Working more together in community. So, yeah, I think that's a beautiful thing. And I think it doesn't have to be that far off. Like it's not that far off to be able to make that happen. So you also do a lot of stuff with language. Tell us about the language component. So
we also, we have a series of cultural heritage tables. We provide 2 hours of free access to any group. So if there's any group out there that's interested, that want to gather, we put out a pot of coffee, and folks will bring snacks. But right now we have an Indigenous heritage table. We have a La Table Creole. We're working with a partnership with Herbert Wilson Creole Inc. And the indigenous table I should have mentioned is Mr. Joe Biot.
Tell me more about that, because I've been seeing that and I've never been out to that, but that's very intriguing to me.
So the indigenous heritage table, it's quite small, but the idea is for them is to create a space that isn't focused on any one tribe, and so and coming together instead of, so the whole idea that we all have our own groups, like this is an opportunity for these groups to come together and share. So although it's a small table, it's building in popularity. And
who are the tribes that have been coming to represent?
So we've had Homa, we've had Chitimacha, we've had Jeff Apache. Like I didn't know. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so I didn't even know we had Apaches in Louisiana, but there's a large population, which I didn't know. But there's not a place for groups to come. I mean, I think Vermilionville,
they have something. But I think it's separate. Maybe not all.
Yeah.
One. I don't know. I don't know enough about it to say, but that's awesome.
But for us, it's not just showing up for the table. It's also about taking ownership in the space. Mm-hmm. So right now. They're at New News. They're doing a cleanup day outside, and they've Joe's become our facility team leader at New News. So he's got his clipboard and is making a list and checking it. And it's the idea of it becoming part of a bigger community.
So it seems like what Kay was talking about is that it's all run by volunteers.
It's all volunteers,
which is pretty amazing. That you're doing so much there and such a diverse.
It's a lot. We do over 100 activities a year, like out of New News, and it's all. I think our bookkeeper, who isn't paid a lot, but that's the only person that's really paid. And now when we do get funding for specific projects, sometimes we can allocate money towards some of the producers of events.
Sure,
But for us, the big ultimate goal is creating that community piece. Whether it's through education or whether it's through music or whether it's not so much. And I had to learn this, and I had to learn this through my art too, visual art. It's more about the process than it is about the end product. Right. So it's all the intricacies, all the messiness that it takes to get to that part, to that end point, that is what's exciting. Because the actual event itself becomes almost like a byproduct.
Right. So like the community coming together to make that happen is almost more important. Because it's bringing community together.
Right. And that's the lens. That's how I look at it.
And also like with visual art, right? It's, if you can remember that, it's the headspace for me, because I have a tendency to not be able to stay focused. And so I think that was a big attraction to me about learning to draw and do visual art, because you're so focused on that at the time, and time can fly by, and your brain is just like, it's like meditation to the nth degree.
Right.
That I can't really meditate otherwise. I've tried.
Yeah, I can't do it either.
But doing something like that, and the only other experience I have is like playing music where it's just socially, like in a jam, and it's not about anybody performing, but it's communicating with the other musicians. It takes you to another level that you can't even explain what it is, because it's a level of, it's about the music that's being created and not about you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's I call it like the, this is kind of funny, but as a kid, we'd pick on my grandma because when she'd peel potatoes, she'd kind of stick her tongue out. And then
because she was in her little zone.
She's in her little zone. She'd stick her tongue out and she'd peel the potatoes, and we'd make fun of her all the time because that tongue was hanging out. And so I remember I was at LSU and with the 4 other
Your little
students.
gang,
Yeah,
right?
my little group. And we're all painting, and we started, talking about getting into the zone and like what each of us do when we're in the zone. And when it got to me,
You didn't stick out your tongue, did you?
they imitated me, and I stuck my tongue out just like my grandma. I was like, golly.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And even now I'll catch myself, And another thing, another zone is I can remember standing behind my uncle, and I'm like, who's humming? And he hummed all the time. It drove us nuts.
So what was he doing when he
Just
hummed?
whatever. It didn't matter. It was just hummed all the time. And so it was just, and you would think, that would be a wonderful thing, but it was just so much. And so now when I'm in the zone,
You find yourself
I
humming?
catch myself humming. I don't know what I'm humming. I don't know what but it's like, I was like, was I humming? They're like, oh,
Yeah.
God, yes. I mean, you don't know the words, and and I'm making all kind of stuff up, so sometimes I sing too, but it's not good, right? But it's kind of getting into that zone.
Yeah. So what do you think when you're in that zone?
Mm-hmm.
When you in that zone, you're not even aware that your tongue is sticking out or that you're humming. What is your
I'm not hungry. I'm not cold. I'm not hot. There's nothing that, don't ask me if I'm hungry.
just
Just leave me alone. If my tongue's hanging out when I'm painting, don't look at me.
you don't dare.
Remember I
interrupt.
said something about me not always being nice?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's one of the times like if your tongue's sticking out, don't even go.
Yeah. If his tongue's sticking out, don't approach or do so with caution.
That's good.
Yeah.
So I have a couple questions I want to ask you about like because it seems like you might stay in like this creative flow. Whenever when you feel like creatively stuck, what are some rituals or what are some things that you do to be able to help yourself get out of that rut?
So, believe it or not, new news helps me get out of that rut, right?
does.
Because being able to or having to focus on something else other than kind of myself forces me out of it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, because sometimes if we're in a creative rut, it's because we're so self-focused and or even if you say, "Oh, I'm depressed," but you focus too much on yourself.
Yeah.
Right. So no, that makes sense to me. So going to the news and getting out of
my headspace and there's always a challenge of some kind, right? And so it's like, okay, how do we address this challenge? And focusing on that, it kind of tricks my brain into to letting go. Now, I will say it also consumes a lot of my time.
So how do you balance that and still have time for
that I haven't worked
art?
out yet. But I will say,
I'm curious though. Yeah.
I will say though that in the last few years, especially with Peg Ramir coming on board, we've been able to really start looking at how to diversify even more. And when I mean diversify, I'm like diversify labor even more.
Right, within New News, the
Within
structure
New
of
News.
New News, yeah,
Yeah.
so that it doesn't all fall on you. And
Right. And because the thing is, here's the deal. It's like the only reason I did it because no one else was doing it. But believe me, there are people out there that do it a hell of a lot better than me.
there's certain things that you could say, okay, maybe they can do that.
Oh, Dave Morrow, for example, moving back to, grew up in Orneville, moved back from New York. I mean, I'm not going to talk to him about IT stuff because, a smartphone makes me feel stupid, right?
So that's
So
that's something you can say. Oh,
He becomes the expert in the room whenever he's in the room in regards to that, and that's what we're trying to do is to really it's adaptive leadership or horizontal leadership. I know probably heard me talking about that before, where, you know, those people that know their stuff, you know, they become the ones that, you know, rise to the top in that particular situation. So if it's an educator, then it should be the educator who's talking and not me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And
So-
that's hard for people to do though, because then the ego gets, for a lot of us, our egos get in the way, and I still have to keep mine in check sometimes, you
Right.
know. But
Human nature. I think we all have.
you got to have some,
Right.
right? But yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just looking. I have a few little questions. I
Yeah.
don't want to make sure that I don't forget
Okay.
to ask you these things. So I'm curious, just, you know, personally, like to find out from people that are so, as yourself, just so prolific in your visual art, but also in what you do at New News. And when you have challenges, we kind of talked about being in a creative rut, but like when you have, like, you know, life has challenges, you know, when your dad got sick, when your mom went, like, what are the things that have helped you whenever you've faced, you know, heartbreak, you know, just challenges in life? What are things that have helped you work through those challenges? Are there things that you think, oh, if it wouldn't be for that, I could have never made it through? Besides, well,
This is gonna sound so corny, but friends. I mean, and it's like, and beside, let me not say friends. I'm gonna say family by choice, because I think that you know, I have a solid group of friends that I've had for, I mean, 30 something years, you know. And that's another thing. That's my litmus test as far as if I'm a good person or a bad person. I'm like, well, I still have all the same friends, so I can't
Right.
be all bad.
right. It's pretty amazing, really,
Right.
to have friends for that long.
You know, and then people will say like, I mean, why would you think you're a bad person? I'm like, 'cause we're all kind of bad. We all have like,
We all have some, we all
We all
kind of
have-
eye and mischievous.
you know, we all have bad thoughts, and we all, you know, I don't want to talk politics, but we all have ways we can, yeah,
For sure.
yeah. There's
For
all
sure.
these thoughts that come to mind, but I would
You feel like you've had
I
a good.
feel I have a
your
good
friends-
support system.
Support system, maybe.
You know, and that was one of the reasons why kind of moving back to Orneville, I think made a lot of sense as an artist, because you know, when things don't go as planned, you know, and I still need to get work to a gallery, I have a whole slew of people that are willing to do that for me.
That's pretty awesome.
You know, like I didn't have that in Baton Rouge,
Right.
and I didn't have, you know, I didn't have that.
Right.
You know, you know, and I think, you know, there's reciprocity there too. It's like also like
Sure.
watching over them as well. But
That sense of community is like something that sounds like it's really important to you.
That's living. I mean, it's not
Right.
just, you know, it's not just because it feels good. It's because it's a necessity, and I think it's something that we don't really focus on anymore. You know, like you know, I don't know. I can remember, you know, is it PTA meetings, parent teacher meetings? Is that PTA?
Parent teacher, yeah.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know
As a
what the
kid,
age
I mean, they were like, the gym was full. One side of the gym was full with, you know, so there was a community there, and that didn't exist.
It's
you know,
rare. It's rare.
the
now.
church was another one. That was
Yeah.
a big, that
It's not as strong.
it's not as strong, you know. So
Yeah.
I can go through a whole list of different organizations and groups that, within my own community that really aren't that cohesive anymore. And so that personal network becomes really important.
One of the things I'm interested in, and I'd like to get your perspective on, is that I find in my travels, and also, you know, here at home, that when you have a strong community, a strong cultural traditions, I find that the creativity really blossoms in that. And when I've traveled and people that still had a very strong sense of community and tradition, there was so many, at the time was music, like some of the best musicians and visual artists and just like beautiful creativity. Mm-hmm. So I'm interested in that. And it sounds like the connection for you is not this there too between community and creativity. Do you see that? And why do you think that's so?
I do see that, but I also think that I do see that. I think that, supportive environments are going to create more confident people, and maybe not always, they might not always be great, but they're confident, and.
Which could be a good or bad.
Exactly.
Yes, I totally get what you're going at.
And then, but I also think that through adversity, that it forces us to find different solutions. So, and that's where creativity comes in. So I'm wondering if the communities you were talking about did they come together, for like through adversity, or like Hurricane Katrina, for example. And I hate to keep bringing that up, but
right, no.
But there's a lot of creative stuff that came out of that. A lot of people ended up in different communities. They might have gone back, but they've kind of left a piece of them behind, and those communities have forever changed. And as awful as things are, I mean, I can look at, and sometimes I feel guilty about this, but I think back to the pandemic, and all the lives that were lost. But then I also think of like some of the positive stuff that came out of that.
For sure. I know for me, like being able to stay home, and I never realized how much I longed to have quiet time at home. And now I treasure that, and I make sure I have that now. Mm-hmm. And that came from the pandemic. Yeah. And I don't have to go be a busybody every weekend.
Right.
Run around,
Yeah. So, I see both sides. I think it's, definitely community can generate like more, more confident, more talented people who just really know their craft or their art. But I also think that, through adversity, it could.
So someone mentioned, I think it was maybe Jude, Terrio from St. Martinville, about the necessity when you grow up, maybe with not a lot of financial means, and you become self-sufficient and resilient because you use what you have.
That's exactly.
And you figure out how to make stuff happen. And that is a lot of where creativity comes into play. Like, okay, I have, this, and this. What am I going to be able to make for supper?
Right.
So you put those things together, and you might come up with something that you wouldn't have ever made before, and might be delicious.
That was me being bored in the pasture, realizing that, well, shoots, why make mud pies when we got these cow patties? And that became a. But you get where I'm going with that. Yeah. It's just the idea that make it. What drives me crazy when an artist says, "I don't have the right supplies." It makes me crazy because
use what you have.
Use what you have. I mean, there's a wealth of stuff all around us that can be, fashioned or manipulated into something.
Yeah. It's just an excuse. For me, it sounds like probably if I would say something like that, just a procrastination that I'm scared to get started. Yeah. But use what you have.
And also there's a scare of getting started, the scare of the fear of failure, but also the fear of success.
For sure. Success
is also a
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. You hear that. And yeah. So do you have any like daily habits or rituals that you do to kind of, maybe not, I'm interested in that because I have certain little things I do every day. Like I read a little inspirational thing and I journal every day. It kind of sets me up. And maybe people don't have that, but that's just.
So I told you.
I'm curious
So
about that.
my sleeping ritual is to sleep
right.
in not. My idea is like not ever to sleep in the same spot back to back. Just
Change
because
it
I
up.
always change it up because I always want a different perspective when I wake up. That's number one. And the other one is I try and I don't always succeed. I do it more when the day opens in somewhat of a negative way. Because sometimes you wake up and something's happened. And what I try to do is I try to think of 3 nice things about not necessarily that particular situation, but life in general.
Sort of like gratitude sort of thing?
Kinda,
or just.
yeah. 3 nice things. And then just to kind of reset my brain. Because what I've noticed is that when I do that, it's almost like my perspective has shifted somewhat.
So you're a bit really, your perspective on things, you realize that has the strongest impact. Because you could be looking at the same thing as somebody else, but if your perspectives are different, you could see.
Because I don't know what shoes the other person's walked through. I don't know what baggage they have, what lens they're looking at it through.
Right.
So for me, it's really about trying to be aware as possible of that.
That's awesome.
But to say that I have I don't do yoga, which I should. There's lots of things that I should do that I don't do.
Like what would be, like if you had, all of a sudden you had this free day, like, I don't know, like they gave you a free day, like an extra day in the week. What would be a perfect day for you?
Okay. Well, for that, I'd have to overcome the guilt I have for not doing something. Because then, that's the other part. Sure. Because, the self-flogging every morning. Well, that could be a ritual, the self-flogging every morning.
Yes.
But a perfect day would just be, oh my God, just watching Schitt's Creek back to back.
I love that show.
I do too. It reminds me so much of Arnaville.
Does it really?
Oh my God.
That's so funny.
Yeah. Maybe not.
No. The characters are so funny on that.
But just like to be able to not to be able to just to do something mindless like that and
not feel guilty.
And not feel guilty. Yeah.
Because you had this extra day. So I'll get, yeah.
Okay. And not the, I have to be doing something that's going to have an impact.
Right.
Right. That's the hardest part for me.
So you strive to for your day to have something impactful that you.
Oh God, that's.
Yeah.
Yeah. Growing up, Mom and Dad were like, you should always fix your bed before you leave the house. Because if your day goes wrong, when you come home, you can see that your bed's made. And that's the one thing that you accomplished.
So you just decided to sleep on the couch?
That's it. That's exactly it.
I love that perspective, though, but I find it ironic and hilarious that you sleep on the couch.
That's it. And why you think I'm sleeping, It's almost like that's the same person who makes, mud pies out of cow patties. Or like if you have to, catch the bus by a certain time or, and you have to dress, why not go to sleep dressed?
Right.
And I would do things like that. Like, I'm not going to waste my time doing these little things when
I can just wake up dressed.
Dressed and ready to go.
I like that. I try to trick myself into sleeping in my exercise clothes so that when I wake up, I don't you're already dressed, girl. Just go.
Just go.
Just go do it.
It's kind of the same. Yeah, it's kind of the same.
Just go do it, girl. And that's interesting. Well, I am so excited to be able to visit with you.
I wish I had more profound things to say. But
You've said so many things that I think is little beautiful nuggets. I just have one more little
Okay,
thing
all
I
right,
wanted
all right.
to ask you about. So, what would you tell if you could talk to your 20-year-old self? What would you tell that 20-year-old self?
What would I tell to my 20? It's not all about the money.
It's not about the money.
It's not about the money. It's not about power. It's not about any of that. Because for so long, I thought that was what made a difference.
That was going to make you
That
the
was going to
artist.
yeah,
Well, you were kind of trying to prove that to
yeah.
your parents. It seems like
Parents,
right?
but also it's not just parents.
Society.
It's society in general. Because come on, think if you're a musician or you're,
Totally.
I pay my taxes every year. I do all of those things, but but I felt that I had to overcompensate.
Right.
And but if I could go back and tell my 20-year-old self, I would say that, you know what, people are going to talk
They're going to talk no matter what.
no matter what. So you might as well give them something to talk about. But yeah, it's not about it's not about trying to control.
Right. Yeah.
And
Because you realize, I know my younger self thought that if I did X, Y, and Z, it was going to be that.
yeah,
Because I'm a good person, and if I do X, Y, Z, this is what my life's going to be. Maybe all y'all did all that, but I'm going to be different.
yeah, you're the
right?
exception.
You're
We're
the
always the
exception.
exception
We
to the
always
rule.
think that as a young person. That, so just
I was very
Interesting.
fortunate though, because I've had some, and some mentors or teach, whatever you want to call them in life, that, and some of them I can't even remember their names, but I remember I was at LSUE for a split second, and one of the professors said, George, the impression that you leave in life. I said, yeah. He's like, imagine a bucket of water, and when you stick your hand in it and you pull it out, that's the impression that we leave on the impact that we leave on this world. And I'm like, oh my God,
that's profound.
I was like, but it also depressed me, because I was like, no matter what I do, really the impression is going to be so minute, I don't necessarily believe that anymore. But what it did do was it just kind of gave me more drive. And then the other one was Robert Warren's, a painting professor at LSU, said after we had just, I don't know if I had graduated yet, but I was nearing graduation, and he called me and my buddy Scott Finch, and he said, can I talk to y'all? I said, sure. So we're sitting there, and he's a pretty well-known artist, and he said, well, I just want y'all to know that y'all been had. We've told you that if you went, you got your degree and you did this and you did that you were going to get accepted into, a master's program, or you were going to get it, taken in by a gallery. And he said, but none of that. The chances of that happening are pretty minute.
Wow.
So
Y'all are graduating from
LSU. Yeah.
LSU.
We were like, but to have that, and he was right. Just because you have a degree, or just because you have, in the end of the day, it's
It's
a
not
piece
done. You're like, you still have a lot of work
You
ahead.
got a lot of work ahead of you. And I think that we do a disservice sometimes when we arm people with knowledge that it's untrue. It's just not. There's no guarantee.
Right.
And
Well, it just doesn't stop after you get that, right? It's like that's only the beginning of when you're going to have to really start working.
And it's that, universities, what it did do was it was a kind of a safety net, more so than anything else, to kind of like feel things out a little bit.
And then, just maybe when you get out of the university, I mean, because you have assignments, you have this particular thing you have to do, and then now you're in the real world, and it's like,
It's no, yeah. We and I think I think sometimes as a society, we do a disservice to. I'm so grateful that Robert Warren's did that, because I've told that story before, and people are like, I can't believe he said. I'm like, I'm actually very grateful that someone took the time to say that. At that level.
right?
Yeah.
Because it's just like anything, it takes time and effort, and it just doesn't happen overnight. It feels like things happen overnight for people, but
Oh no.
yeah. Well, you seem to have figured it out.
Ask me that in the morning whenever I'm going through my flogging session.
What is a typical flogging
Oh
session?
no, it's just me kind of like my eyes going left and right, like, oh, I can't believe you said that. Oh, I can't believe you did that. Or
I could have
you
said, I should have
should
said that.
or I
Oh,
should have done
God.
this. And whenever so and so walked in, you should have stood up. I mean, you name it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, our human low brains, we do that to ourselves, huh?
And it's such a waste. But but then I think of three nice things, and then off,
Then you change that perspective.
yeah, and then walk out the door and all good.
So I've enjoyed so much. I think I asked my little questions that I wanted to ask you, George. But if people are interested in finding you, well, are you finding more about your visual art, finding more about Nunu's and what is happening there? Well, how can people find you?
So you can go to nunucollective.org. We have a new website that is going to soon debut. It's going to be a lot more user friendly.
Awesome.
What word am I looking for? A lot more, not professional, but a lot more, not animated, but user friendly, but also, I can't think of it, but it's just going to be
awesome.
It's going to be awesome. Okay.
When in doubt, use the word awesome.
Yeah. And then, you know what else I heard? Interesting. So when someone says like, oh, that's interesting, I'm like, you don't know what to say. I think I'm going to start doing that from now on, like to people. I'm like, you don't have to say anything. But, and then if you can go to my personal website to see my work. So George Mark Studio at gmail.com. No, wait, georgemarkstudio.com.
.com. And do you have galleries that you have your work at?
Yeah, so I show with Anne Connolly Fine Art in Baton Rouge, also Claire Elizabeth Gallery in New Orleans, Judy Ferrara Gallery in Michigan. Those are the three primary places you can find, and of course Nunu's.
Yes.
So,
do you have a body of work that you're working on now that you're excited about?
So I'm really excited because I have this new easel. Did you see it?
I did not.
Yeah. So I can paint up to 15 feet tall.
Oh my!
I am so excited.
Is that easel at Nunu's?
It's at Nunu's.
Oh, I'll have to go see.
And so one of our artists, Mr. Larry Bork, he's kind of the MacGyver of Nunu's. And so I asked him, I said, listen, I said, I need an easel that can go up to, at least up to 17 feet, but it didn't have to be 17.
So is that 17 feet in height
In
and
height.
width? Oh, height.
Yeah, and width I can go as wide as
Right.
Yeah. And so,
Wow.
I said, but it has to be able to shrink down to, maybe like 5 feet. And it needs to be able to pivot so that way it turns into a tabletop, kind of like a drafting table.
Okay.
And it needs to break apart.
Oh, wow.
So that way it could be shipped. And about a week later, he said, can you come by my house? And I went by his house, and he had modified something and created this easel for me. So it's a prototype right now. So I'm going to work on it. And I'm really excited.
That's
to
very
do
exciting.
some really large scale pieces. I think the largest I've done so far has been about 12 feet tall, maybe 18 feet wide.
Wow.
But I haven't gone, and those were really more so like fragmented. So this is really I think probably the first time I'll be able to work on something that big that's uninterrupted.
Wow. That's
So
exciting.
I'm excited. I'm excited
How
about
do
it.
you even get your perspective on something that big?
Well, New News is great because
It is
when the doors close, it turns into a big old cavern of
huge.
space to
Yeah.
work. So really, really, really looking forward to doing that.
I can't wait to see
Yeah,
that. That's exciting.
and I can't wait to collaborate on. And my buddy Scott, I've asked him if he would come collaborate on something that big, and so he agreed. And of course, I collaborate with Lisa DiStefano.
I saw that.
So we'll.
That's beautiful, y'all. The work that y'all did together. I was looking
And
at
we
it
argue the whole time.
Really, it's
Oh yeah,
so beautiful.
we argue the whole time.
Well, you don't see that. You don't see conflict in the paintings.
No, that's the yin yang of it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a marriage of the two. But no, we had to establish some ground rules, and I'm like, you just painted all of them all. Like, so let's make a rule that you can't paint
Over my stuff.
over a certain percentage,
Right.
like whatever it is.
Yeah,
and
I
then
would think. Yeah.
because we don't do it standing side by side.
So
I'll
you work on it, and then she'll work on it.
and then we go back and forth, back and forth.
So are you surprised when you come back and you see?
Well,
she's done over your work.
Well, when they've worked over your work, when she's painted over what you've done, and like I liked that part, So what we've started doing now is we look at it and we're like, okay, I feel really good about this area. So I'm just telling you that before you
Before you cover it up.
before you cover it up, and but again, it's also I think it's also kind of helps me kind of learn how to, again, it's all about compromise.
Right.
And to understand that just because I had an idea to do something doesn't mean that it's the best idea.
Right. Maybe
Somebody-
it's a good jumping off point, and
Correct.
you can work.
And somebody else comes in behind me and makes it even better. So it's collaborating in that regard, I think is really, it's the process of it that I get more out of it than.
You just we have to learn to, because that ego would, I just see where that ego right there would be really, really hard to.
Because the first thing I
pacify.
think of bands, like when bands are working together.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that's my experience. Yeah, being in a band with people is like a marriage. You really have to learn how to,
yeah,
because you're with them a lot, and you're doing stuff that is playing music or visual art. It's like it's very vulnerable, right? You're exposing yourself, and you're exposing yourself with these other people. And
somebody once said, well, probably trying to hit on me, but they were like, I mean, I mean, when you make art, is it just like, I said, well, quite honestly, I'm like, you ever had a colonic? It's kind of like you just get it out. Like if you have an idea for something, and I'm not saying it's necessarily always enjoyable, but you get it out. And so, because the idea of like romanticizing what that whole process was like, I'm like,
Right.
no, sometimes it's not a pretty process.
right, there's a lot of that might come out, right? But you have to get it all out,
You have to get it all out
and then pick and choose
and pick it exactly, and then edit what
what you don't.
Yeah.
What you don't want. Were there anything else you want to share?
I don't know. I think I've talked about bathroom stuff. I've talked about cow patties. I've
sure
talked
have,
about.
that's right.
Let's see what else. What else can I?
Clipping people's plants.
Oh, clipping people's. Oh my gosh! And you would think that my house would be like pristine, and it's not.
There's just certain things
I mean,
you like.
I want people to come fix me.
Right.
That so
Can y'all come cut off my little extra twigs?
y'all can come cut my twigs off.
Oh, well, George, thank you so much for
thank-
coming visit with us on the podcast and
Thanks for having me.
doing everything you're doing
Well,
for
thank you.
and creating community and supporting creativity, and it's a beautiful thing. So I appreciate what you're doing.
Well, thank you so much. And I mean, I'm hoping that I want everyone to move back home. Everyone
back
that's
home.
gone away, to come back and just, stay for 5 years and then go back if you want to. But
Right, come home
yeah,
and don't move away if you don't think things are good. Stay and make the change you want to see. That's
the other thing. It's like, because home is the front line.
Yeah, it's true. It's where you have to face the good, the bad, the ugly, because it's it's all there, and it's with your people that you love, and maybe you don't.
And if you're gonna make positive changes, it's easier to make them within a network of people that already love you.
Right.
So, because you go someplace else, you got to start trying to convince people to invest in you.
Right. They don't know you yet.
They don't know you.
Right.
And it takes a long time
To build what you have right here at home. Yeah.
So,
I like that. Well, thank you so much. And we'll be on the lookout. This is part of a series of people who are from this area, left for a little while, and decided to come back and make shit happen.
Stir the pot.
And stir the pot and get it going. And so thank you so much for doing that.
Kick over the ant mound.
That's
something.
right. Do something.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me.